Hi, this is Egon Trujillo, and today this is my presentation on examining my instructional practice. So what I wanted to address today is the three principles of learning as demonstrated through my most recent science department meeting. I run the science department, and at our most recent meeting, in lieu of the schools being closed due to the coronavirus, we've been forced to hold not only our classes using online conferencing tools such as Zoom, but even our department meetings. So this video that I'm going to show you today and this discussion that ensues is all about that particular Zoom meeting, which I've referenced at the end of this PowerPoint presentation. So there are three principles that Donovan and Bransford talked to us about in their book on how students learn. And I believe that this most recent meeting actually demonstrates the three principles in action. So for the first principle, which essentially has to do with preconceived notions that students, or in this case, staff members, bring to a lesson. For the first principle, I wanted to diagnose how my staff has preconceived notions about remote learning, which is a practice that we're implementing currently to address the school's closure. And so I wanted to not only address their preconceived notions about that, but also about Zoom for conference calling. And I did that using an emotional check-in, which you'll see in a bit. And then for the second principle, I wanted to provide a conceptual framework for how to use this remote learning template using a PowerPoint that I created. And for the last principle, the third principle, what I wanted to achieve was to give my staff an opportunity to discuss and reflect metacognitively on remote learning using a breakout group feature, which you'll see in my video. So how do I believe that I accomplished these three as demonstrated in the video I'm going to show you now? Well, for the first principle, as you'll see, I provide my staff member with a detailed agenda weekly, and for this particular meeting, I gave them a chance to discuss their preconceived notions about Zoom, remote learning, and everything revolving around curriculum and instruction as it's developing now during the school closure. And I went around and did a round robin check-in just to see how everyone's feeling and just to kind of address like any notions they have about this. The second principle, I wanted to see that my staff member was provided with structure for implementing remote learning. And so I gave them a PowerPoint template, which you'll see in a bit, that shows them how to provide structure for learning intentions, objectives, polling, how to provide their students with resources, how to give students an opportunity to watch something, read something, and then do something with what they're learning in that lesson, how to give students an opportunity to apply what they've learned and practice it during the lesson, and then lastly, how to check for understanding or assess mastery. And then for the last principle, as you'll see in my video, I then divide my staff into breakout groups of about 3 to 4 staff members, and I let them amongst themselves discuss the prompt that I provide them and really just reflect on what it is that they think they've learned about remote learning. And so now I'm going to show you what that video is. I'm going to show you a few clips because the meeting itself was an hour long. So here we'll look at the YouTube video of that meeting. Okay, and so
piece that really spoke to me, and I just kind of wanted to do like a round robin emotional check-in with all of you. So we'll let the birthday girl go first. So and then we'll just go round robin from there. Can you read us the prompt, please, Brenda, for the emotional check-in?
All right. It says, "What emotions are you experiencing right now? Rate/quantify it."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I reflected a lot with what she was saying. How like we maybe get up later and like we're experiencing more sort of, well, the social distancing is making us experience like different sorts of emotions. So I think I'm doing okay actually. Being a family is actually helping a lot. And quantify it. Do we give it a number? Should I give it from like 1 through 10, I'd be like probably about an 8. So I'm doing pretty well.
Thank you, Brenda. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
Yeah, I when I was listening to the video, I think it kind of, at least for me, it kind of makes.
And I'll pause there. For this first section, you can see that my staff is discussing how they feel about Zoom, how they feel about remote learning, and just kind of sharing out some of their frustrations and preconceived notions about how it is they're feeling at this time. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here and show you where I give my staff an opportunity to build a framework for how it is we're going to be running with remote learning in our classrooms.
Emotional check-in, and we'll move on to now, if you guys are ready, to the little reflection, which is kind of like piggybacking off of the book on remote learning. And these were the main 6 key points addressed in her book. And I just wanted to kind of have a discussion for all of us about how we can implement this. And I italicize how we can best use it, because of course, this is not a recipe for everyone that's going to look identical for all, nor can you do it all in one day. In case you didn't hear the principal's message the other day, we're not held to one grade per week anymore, because it's kind of impossible, especially with students that just don't have internet. So this is really just a recommendation for remote learning. So these are the 6 points that we learned about in the training today. And I wanted to show you something that I created, which is a sample lesson, but it's actually the lesson I'm currently working on that I'm going to just try to do now with some apps that I've added to the student iPads. And I'll just go ahead and share my screen with you. And if I could just walk you through it, and I'll take questions at the end, just because I wanted to just show you the whole thing first and then address questions later, if that's okay with you. So I'm just following the template that they suggested, and feel free to steal it, borrow it, make it your own, or don't. It's just a recommendation, but I really do agree that this is something that we kind of need to use, because we can't just, and again, this is a message that was brought up at the ILT, because I was at the ILT meeting the other day, and I'm sure you've read a post that the principal put up I think it was last week, that some students are feeling very overwhelmed also, the ones that do have internet access, about tons of work being thrown at them. So we just really need to be purposeful with our lesson development. And I think this is a really good model for that, rather than just posting work. So I'll walk you through the slides. And if you have questions, please just save them for the end so that I can get through this, because we only have an hour. So going through the template, the first thing that hold on, someone's trying to add the group. So it looks like Brenda's trying to add again. Okay, so walking through the template, I'm just using the same exact terminology that I put in quotes as the book. And the first thing that she outlines is that you have to set the lesson. Now for us, this should be pretty familiar, because it's...
And for this part of my meeting, what I'm doing is walking them through all of the template slides that I created for how to conduct remote learning during this time. And again, this was provided so that my staff has a foundation of what remote learning is, as we read in a book that we all read together on remote learning during online time that we're going to be teaching during school closure. And then I'm going to just jump a little further down here so you can see how it is I address the third principle, which is giving my staff, or in this case, my student staff, an opportunity to reflect metacognitively on what we just talked about. So I'll show you that now.
Restriction, and that's how... Sorry. This is something that I showed you last time that I've turned on for you. And here's the breakout room, Ms. Nazarbati. So I have turned it on, and now let me show you how that actually works. Okay, so by having breakout rooms, what's going to happen now is you guys are all going to disappear off of this screen. You're going to get an invite from me. And in that breakout group, if you could please discuss the agenda topic, I'll share the agenda topic for you that I sent you earlier. I want us in these breakout groups to discuss these questions here. Okay, and I also attached you some other websites from the video on social well-being that maybe you'd like to reach out to or share with your students, or even use for yourself if necessary. But I'm going to go ahead and break you out into groups now, so you're going to all disappear from the screen. We won't be talking.
Can I ask you something before we break out?
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about the poll feature, because you use polls, right, with your classes?
I already contacted them. It's not enabled yet, and it's because of the account that we have. So polling is a really cool feature, and I added it into the PowerPoint example that I sent you today, but I already called them, and it's not enabled for our account just because they gave us this emergency access. So hopefully we'll get polling.
Okay, so for right now, no polling.
No, it's not on here. And polling would actually appear at the bottom on your menu bar, but it's not there. It's not enabled yet, and it doesn't show up in meeting settings yet, but I am calling them, and I'm just expecting a call, and I'll find that out and get back to you on that. But great question. Okay, so ready for the breakout? Okay, you're welcome. So here come the breakout groups, guys. So you're going to get, so when you enable breakout groups, it asks you how many rooms you want to create and how many people you want in that group, and it's going to sort us randomly. So because there are 12 people here, I'll just do, let's say, 4 groups of 3. Okay, so I created 4 groups. You can manually sort it. So if you know like who doesn't work well together, that might be a good idea. But because we're all professionals here, I'm going to do 4 groups of 3. Okay, so as soon as you get this notification from me, you will start disappearing. All right, guys, discuss, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.
And the kids asked questions still and everything, and it was kind of cool. But anyways.
Please, yeah. Hey, actually, even better, Cruz, at our next meeting, would you mind doing the PD on that? Yeah. Because I think that's something that a lot of teachers have been requesting, how to actually teach remote learning, because.
Okay, so we'll jump back into my PowerPoint presentation. And so now that I feel I've addressed all 3 principles through my video presentation, which you just saw, what challenges did I encounter throughout? Well, there was a few. For the first principle, I feel like I didn't really give enough time to address like preconceived notions that they had about remote learning other than just at the beginning. For the second principle, which has to do with providing students or staff with a foundational background and building on that background knowledge, I don't feel that I really did that so much because I didn't really give them time during this meeting to test or create their ideas for remote learning. And then lastly, for the third principle, as you saw, the rooms were broken up into about 4 different groups, but I couldn't be in all of them at once. So I don't think I had a chance to hear what everyone thought about remote learning. What new insights have I gained from my teaching? Well, I definitely now know that technology offers us multiple means of representation, expressing knowledge, and engaging my students and staff during this time. And these are my sources. As you can see, there is my YouTube video from my most recent department meeting. And again, my reference for how students learn. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Bye.